Despite the frequent insistence of many of my grade school teachers, I have not read any of the works of Orson Scott Card. I've just never really been interested. This was during the heyday of Harry Potter when I was growing up, and even then I only really followed the movies. I didn't really pay much attention to the books. I just wasn't a kid that read books. That's how I was. I mean, that's pretty much that. But really, like I say in a lot of videos for that review films based on books, the film version needs to be able to stand on its own because not everyone is going to have read the book. And that's not just me saying that. Here's some footage I shot at Comic-Con to justify this.
Scott at his signings now will say the following, and I completely agree and I completely understand why he's saying this. Movies can do what movies can do, books can do what books can do. So if you're going into the movie hoping for the Ender's Game novel experience, you're going to be really, really disappointed. If you go into the movie looking forward to a Christmas season blockbuster that's going to have pretty things exploding and characters that you're familiar with and the storyline, you're going to have a fantastic time.
With that, let's begin the 100th episode of Romney's Reviews. Now, from a technical standpoint, the film's pretty solid. I mean, the visual effects and the cinematography look pretty good. There were some visual elements that looked kinda goofy, namely the costumes that the kids were wearing the first time they kinda enter the battle zone when they're launchies. Yellow wasn't really a good color. I guess it was supposed to be kind of childish and a little goofy looking, but it was almost a little too goofy looking and felt out of place amongst the overall darker color scheme of the rest of the film. The story, on the other hand, I have a few problems with, mainly because it comes across as a very truncated summary of the overall story. I mean, I haven't read the book, but even I could tell that there were some things that were missing. And really, it felt cramped. I mean, I understand you're trying to be episodic because that's how novels are, but it felt really cramped. A lot of the scenes didn't really have any breathing room. There was no real build-up or, like, payoff. Well, I guess the end could count as a payoff, but with each scene and how it was kind of built up and everything, there was no real build-up, and there was no real, like, falling action. There was no real kind of, like, after the event. You never really got to see the weight of a lot of the events, except at the very end, which I guess kind of works. It's kind of like a roller coaster. With a roller coaster, you have like the build-up as it slowly gets to the top and then drops, but here it's like it had a little bit of it going up, but then it plateaued the rest of the way before having a bit of a drop. But that's about it. That's what it felt like. And on top of that, we don't really spend enough time to really understand the side characters to the point where we're supposed to care about them like they expect us to during the final moments of the film. It's just a case of, yeah, we've been following Ender throughout most of the film, but I still don't know who most of these people are. And that was another major problem that I had with the story, is that it didn't really show enough of the relationship between the main character and the side characters that we're supposed to care about. Story issues aside, the film is pretty solid, and having really good actors playing the key roles is a definite plus. However, I wouldn't put it on the same level of other blockbusters that have come out this year and will probably come out later this year, some as close as next week. And so really, it's only going to really appeal to fans of the novels who are already familiar with the characters and familiar with the setting, because as someone who hasn't read the novel, I mean, granted, I am interested and may check out the novels later, but if you're desperate to see it in theaters, see it in 2D, save yourself the $3 surcharge. That said, I give Ender's Game a 3.5 out of 5. So that's it for this episode of Romney's Reviews. Yeah, I understand it's the 100th episode, which is kind of a milestone, but really, given how short I've been trying to keep these videos, I didn't really have anything planned, plus I still have to shoot the Evil Dead video, so yeah. Next week, I'll be taking a look at Thor: The Dark World. See ya then.